In conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music and gaming. Only on Hungama's Women Game Changers podcast.
Hi, welcome to Hungama celebration of 50 Game Changers 2023. Over this season, you will get to know women who are chalking their own path and paving the way for the multitudes to follow in the field of entertainment across music, video and gaming. I'm Raunaq Roy from Hungama, and it is my pleasure to welcome the driven, the adventurous and the energetic Simran Hoon, the girl with the golden touch. With a rare talent for sales, Simran has broken every mold and is a great representation of women leading businesses and crushing numbers in a way that we hope to see more of. Hi Sim. Thank you for taking the time to share the knowledge and shorten learning curve.
Hi Raunaq, I'm so privileged to be here and I'm so excited to be doing this podcast with you, and thanks for all the wonderful things you said about me, and I'm so happy to be among the top 50 women game changers for Hungama for 2023.
I think it's fantastic that more women are showing up. I think it's also terrific that a lot of women are now becoming more comfortable taking on leadership and mentorship roles and taking cognizance of the fact that they're role models. So, I think there comes a point in all our careers where you start realizing that 30 years back, I was looking for this role model. I can be that role model today.
Well, somewhere yes and no. To be honest, I must talk a little bit about my background. I never imagined that I'd be CEO of a company when I was, in my first job.
I'd like to interject and say, and youngest to be doing this. I'm one of the youngest across the board, and certainly as a woman.
Thank you. I do pinch myself sometimes when I hear what you said right now. But I must confess that, this is something that I think through my career, I never imagined that I would be the CEO of a company. It just seemed so out of reach when I was in my first job, my second job, and when this entire thing happened, when I was offered a CEO role, I was extremely overwhelmed by the whole, title and the things that go along with it. But if I have to really talk about how my journey has been, since my early days, I think one of the biggest privileges I had was growing up as an army kid. And one thing that mattered in the army was equality. And
yes.
So I think my growing up days, we were two sisters. There was never any distinction between the boy and the girl in a typical army household. And, we were into sports, we competed with the boys, we played football, we did horse riding, ski courses, we were beating the boys. So there was never any difference of, that you were a girl or a boy or you were anything less. So I think that was a very important foundation for me when I entered the corporate life. And then along the way, there were moments when you come into something like media, media has a lot of women, but yes, there is a certain glass ceiling that you always end up hitting. And I did go through, a few of those obstacles that one had to face, but more of that later. But yes, growing up here was fantastic to realize that women have equal opportunity today.
I love that you said beating boys, not just getting into fights with them, or you're beating them still. You're beating them still. Well done. Okay, I want you to tell me not just a little bit about the journey, but also how did you fall into sales? I mean, because I know that not a lot of girls growing up are thinking this is what I want to do, and I have the ability to, do sales and actually kind of close.
So it was a sort of an accident, actually. I was, and a good one at that, and I can say so now. So I was always interested in media, and I joined the Times School of Marketing straight out of my economics honors course in Miranda House. I had an aunt who worked in media, and I was very fascinated by media. And I'm talking about the early 90s when the Times of India is a formidable group. An institution, and we call it like the University of the Times.
University of Indian Media.
A lot of people in media who have excelled and, been leading companies over the years. I mean, there's an amazing list of, Times of India, ex-Times of India, employees. So my first job was with the Times of India in the advertising sales department of TOI. And like I said, I was very keen on media. And I was actually started off with the classifieds department because that's when you get the real grind.
Yeah.
And when you've got to all your inhibitions about like, I'm not going to go and speak to this person, or I only want to go and meet clients who sit in air-conditioned offices. So there I was, like, in the classifieds department of Times of India, going to every small little retailer in town, getting there, literally writing their ad copies, to getting them published, to going and picking up payments and everything. So I think that was one of the most grinding times. And that's when you truly understand your customer. You have to start from scratch, literally. And everything today is about your customer. Everything today is about your viewer, Yeah. So I think it's very important to be connected with the target group you're talking to, you're selling to. And nothing like starting off from completely, literally rock bottom. So that was one of the reasons for me to actually get into sales like I said, by default. But it turned out to be so amazing because today when you look at every FMCG, whether you've come out from the biggest of institutes, they put you on a truck pack, whether it's a Nestle or a Pepsi, they put you on the truck pack and they throw you right into, the smallest, lowest denominators of distributors, clients, or even your consumers. And I think that's where you...
Tier 4.
Tier 4, totally. And that's actually where the real world is today. We talk about Bharat, we talk about the smallest people. And from there, it's only when you understand that cohort can you really apply your learnings when you go up your corporate ladder.
So tell me, since you brought up Bharat, from what I understand, you're also not looking necessarily at the tier 1 markets as much as you are at tier 2, tier 3 and so on and so forth for the queue. And how did your experience in sales, and I suspect as a 4G kid, how did that sort of help you tap into what you believe just in your gut that will work in those markets for the queue? And so 30 years later, you're actually leaning on those learnings.
So, firstly, as a 4G kid, you ended up living across some 9 towns in India and maybe one or, bigger city. So that obviously taught me a lot about, the roots of India and Bharat as we know it today. And there's a whole different world out from your metro into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. So when I joined the queue, the queue has this really amazing proposition where we actually program YouTube content, and queue actually stands for curating content from YouTube creators, from influencers, from YouTube digital creators for smaller India, where there's not enough internet penetration, or even if you do, the first reason that when you reach out to your phone is for education or for your payment gateways. But for pure entertainment, how is it that we can get the whole family together and curate the best of digital content where the family can sit down and watch? India is finally a 90% single TV house.
Yes.
Television is the only window for the family. The mobile phone is for an individual.
Yes.
So the window for the family to sit down together and watch content which is relevant, which is far away from the Saas Bahu dramas which had their times. So how is it that we can get content which is meaningful, which is fun, and also it's the window to the world. So we curate that content for small India. So that's the USP of the queue, which is where I work. So when I joined here 2 years ago, and we are like a 2-year-old channel now, I think this was one of the most compelling reasons for me to, be at this place, be at the queue, because it's such a unique proposition that we're offering. And all my years of understanding customers in small India, the many advertisers I've met, and the importance that they give to, small India, when I say non-metro, tier 2 and tier 3 towns, that's where the real growth is happening. So that's where we're unique, and I'm completely excited about the propositions that we bring to, our small little viewers in small India.
So do you have then slightly larger sort of in terms of the gender? Does yours start becoming more inclusive when it comes to women?
It does actually. It's pretty much dominated by a lot of kids and young India in that sense, and women too, but more like young India, like 15 to 35. But of course, kids, like the 10-year-olds and all that too. It's also a lot to do with the programming we have.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But programming also in this sort of format is it's in some way harder because it's not proprietorial IPs. But you have to go out and instead look at, and your programming team must be constantly consuming content on an ongoing basis so that they can start handpicking the ones that they want to bring onto the platform?
There's just so much available, and you could just go wrong with what we think we want to watch.
But it's the fastest growing channel on Free Dish, so
absolutely,
you're obviously doing something right.
A lot of research. We every few months we go down to our touch points, the Hindi speaking markets in particular, Eastern UP, Orissa, and especially the Hindi belt, to actually go and understand what is it that they're missing, what are their consumption patterns all about, how do they, we literally go and spend, like days with them to understand a day of, a way of life for them, how they consume content, what happens to the park arts situation. So it gets actually very intense kind of research we do before we start deciding what kind of programming we want to.
So when you were going through your interview process with the Q, just because instinctively or traditionally, this sounds like a channel that I can imagine, if I had to rattle off 5 out of 7 names would be men. So when you were going through the interview process, because it's sort of a lot of travel, it's a lot of outreach into traditional markets, do you believe that factored in at all, or you were just do you think the gender sort of came in as an equation and you were selected regardless?
It's a very interesting question. I think at some level, my founders were very clear that they wanted a woman to lead this company.
Oh, excellent.
So I was very lucky, but there have been enough instances in my life where the previous organizations I worked in, where it's not, the roles haven't come to me the way they should have. And I know I was very capable of taking on higher mandates. But I don't know where to put my finger on. I mean, what I can really, the reasons why things did not happen. But particularly at the Q, I think my management and my founders were very clear that they wanted a woman to head the company. And I must say that it's not just me. It just so happened on capabilities entirely.
Right.
That our head of finance is a woman.
Oh,
our head
wow.
of HR is a woman. Our head of distribution. And when you speak about distribution, you're talking about cable operators.
That's fantastic.
And like I said, it's all happened by entirely on capabilities. But when we do look at the percentage of women in our leadership team, we're extremely heartened. And I hope more companies, actually have more women in the leadership team. I think we women have equal opportunity. That's something that we need to believe in.
Right.
And if that's what you believe in, and yes, there is a world out there who would prefer men to rise up higher, maybe it's easier for them, or it's maybe the percentage of...
Retains the status quo. Who would want to give up that kind of power and clout?
Exactly. So, but, the moment that it's finally all about believing that you've got equal opportunity, it's working hard. It's not aiming for being the CEO or the head of my department or the head of my company tomorrow. You've got to go through the grind, irrespective whether you're a man or a woman, but more so, maybe sometimes more as a woman. And I must confess, there are times when I have thought I have stretched much harder, than my male counterparts.
Yeah, I believe that.
I'll be honest about that. But the thing is, you have to just keep, you just have to keep your determination, your resilience, just your perseverance to go there. I'm going to give it my best shot. And, you can't plan your life. I didn't plan to be CEO. I didn't plan to be the head of ad sales when I was at ZTV, or the head of the North region when I was in Star, or the head of ad sales at Viacom. But you know what? These are all places where I actually worked my way up. And, it did not come to me with any kind of mentors.
Yeah.
Or, every industry has a lot of, nepotism to some extent.
Yeah.
And there are, the bro clubs and, things like that. But I think I just stuck to doing my work. I, just stayed away from, being part of any of these clubs and all that, and just worked my way up. And
since you brought this up, actually, I want to talk about bro culture. It's bro culture. It's buddy breaks. It's going for drinks after dinner. And did you feel like you were left out a little bit? How did you deal with that? Did you feel like you felt the pressure to become one of them?
So I went along when I wanted to. And there were times when it was my free will that I decided not to. So I also believe in a certain work-life balance. So, and, also the multiple roles that you play as a woman.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm house proud. I want to run my house. So I have a pet. I love spending time with my friends, my family. So there were times when it was important for me to, go out with my colleagues and, and skip sometimes. I think I was pretty cool about it. And it was my free will. I went along, and even when I went along with my male colleagues or my, my peers or anything, I was just like one of the boys because I never found anything different. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So one of the things that I think that keeps coming up is everybody wants that great boss who's encouraging you and putting you out there and celebrating you as much as they're celebrating themselves. But you don't always get that guy or girl, actually. And so how do you, without naming names, if you can just share experiences about, having been in that position where you don't have somebody kind of championing your cause, you don't have the opportunity and you don't want to quit. How do you navigate that?
So like they say, you can't choose your relatives, you can't choose your bosses. And there are times in your life you've got to keep it, you just got to keep it going. So again, Raunaq, there's nothing that is a substitute for hard work. There's nothing, relationships with your customers, with your clients, working for your company, I think that becomes so important than, just being on the right side of your boss. So I think that's how I navigated my entire life through, not my entire life, wherever I had these issues. And so there were times when it became very suffocating, but you know what? Finally, it's all about your work will always speak for yourself.
I want to know, and this is something that I think not enough women are told, but why should every woman, actually everybody, why should they do sales for 1 year?
I think you should do sales. First of all, formal sales maybe for 1 year. Selling through your life, whether you realize it or not. You're selling an idea, you're selling a concept, you're selling a product, you're selling a service. So it's very important for you to actually sales, the pain a salesperson goes through, from identifying your client to selling the best proposition to that client, to making sure that it's implemented, to closing the deal, to collections, the amount of effort that goes into it, and this huge pressure of targets. I think sales just makes you very accountable as a person.
Yeah, that's probably true. Tell us some of the war stories, the sort of deal that you thought was going south, but you kind of managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat.
So I think one of the best deals I've ever done is when we were launching Colors, and we launched Colors. I was part of the launch team of Colors in 2008. And so I was the head of sales for a startup for Viacom. Yeah. And the time I joined, the channel wasn't even called Colors. That happened, we were part of the founder team. But I think when Idea came on to Khatro Ke Khiladi Fear Factor as the founder advertiser on Colors, 2 months before launch. And it was, I think, one of the most amazing deals that I've ever done in my life.
So how did you close without actually having a showreel to say, this is us and these are our TRPs and, we've got it sorted? Because before that, you'd been with Fortune 500 companies and, you had track record and history.
So, yes, thank you for that. And I'm so proud of that entire episode. So, firstly, I think what really took me through was, when you build relationships with clients, I had the privilege of knowing the advertiser, the team at Idea at that point of time. We done some great work with them, and sometimes things just, the times when the deal goes really well, and there are times when there's a lot of after sales service, sometimes when things go southwards. But the fact that you always can be trusted, as a salesperson. So I think Idea had that faith in us, in my team and me, that, this is a launch product, and there have been a couple of other channels that may or may not have taken off around the time that we were launching, but they had an entire belief in the team. They had an entire belief on the people who are selling the proposition to them. Also the fact that you had a superstar, you had a lot of innovative ideas that you could offer them, and you were going beyond the 30-second brief and, doing actually things which are way ahead of their time, like branded content.
Right.
So we also thought out of the box a lot. So it was a leap of faith from the client side too, and so from us. But yes, relationships, being true to yourself, believing in your product, and giving that assurance that we're all in it together and it's going to be a win-win. So I think that is a reason why that would be my most special deal ever. Yeah.
Okay.
And for a channel that the launch platform is Colors.
Which I have to say, you guys went on to, I think, rule the advertising roster for a really long time. I think means if Simran walked into the room, all the other ad sales people wanted to leave.
I think that was one of my best stints in my entire, ad sales career. The time I'd spent at Colors, Vicom 18.
Yeah. Okay. Sim, one of the things that, we're trying to do here also is sort of amplify, because not just funnel more women into the workforce, but I think funnel more of them into leadership positions where they're noticed, where their voices are being amplified, where they realize in their own worth. What recommendations do you have for women who are in those middle years of their careers and they don't really know how to take the next step to go up into the next band at a corporate level, especially in media and entertainment on the corporate side?
So firstly, you got to work. Like I said, there's no substitute for hard work. The other advice I would give more women is that, sometimes you just think with your blinkers on and you think that, okay, this is what my department or this is what I should be doing. Go and ask for more work. Go and ask for cross-department exposures. There are times when you will not, it's not always going to be an upward journey. I mean, there are times when you're going to grow laterally.
Right.
And I think that experience is important, where find a mentor maybe in the company who would teach you functions which are not specific to your department. And I think that can help you grow and make you more all-rounded. So that when your turn comes, because finally it is a pyramid, not everybody.
And you're a great example of that.
Thank you. So it is a pyramid. Not everybody is going to go up. But how is it that you can acquire more skills? How is it that you can be more collaborative? Not just with your team members, that's a given, but across departments and functions. So it's always about upskilling yourself, and I think that's something that will always make you stand out, whether you're a man or a woman. And I think I always believe women are like multitaskers, so while I'm contradicting myself and saying don't keep your blinkers on, I don't think women do, but you do have a wider perspective, you multitask a lot. So if you're at that middle level of your career and you sometimes feel you're stuck, just your upskilling yourself is so important. Picking up more, knowledge, cross-department, I think that's going to be an important aspect for you to go up and be a first among equals.
That's fantastic. So one of the most striking things about Simran for me is her sense of inclusion. She will notice you in her radius and include you into the circle with disarming ease. This is not gender specific or even species specific. Everyone has a right to be loved, according to this ardent dog lover. That has always tugged on my heartstrings. Simran, thank you for joining us today. It was lovely talking to you and learning from you. And congratulations. We look forward to the many mountains you will still climb.
Thank you so much, Raunaq. I am so happy to have been part of this podcast, and I hope I can inspire many women to go up the corporate ladder and achieve their dreams and believe in themselves.
I agree with you. This is Raunaq from Hungama, thanking you for tuning in and staying with as we meet more women in entertainment who aren't just playing the game, they're changing it.
In conversation with some fascinating ladies who've changed the game in the world of video, music and gaming. Only on Hungama's Women Game Changers podcast.